Hi, this is Ambi from Board Game Blitz, and today I'm going to talk about all the games I played in October. So I had 35 plays of 23 different games. I logged this using BG Stats app that links to my Board Game Geek account, and 13 games were actually new to me. A lot of games I played were children's games too, so that's neat. But I'm going to go over the non-children's games first and then do all the kids' games at the end. Alright, first I'll quickly go over games that weren't new, which isn't that many. I played Orchard, a 9-card solitaire game, twice. I actually recorded a YouTube playthrough of that for YouTube, which I haven't finished editing yet, but maybe you'll see that soon. But that's a solo card game where you're trying to layer cards on top of each other to match the tree colors that you have. And then I played more Mahjong, which I am now labeling as Riichi Mahjong, so it was new in the app to me because it's my first play of Riichi Mahjong, but the first time we actually counted all the scores correctly in person, I think. I think we did it correctly. And then new games for us, Linkto Food, which was a review copy that I got, and we played through all 5 scenarios. So this is a cooperative trivia game where there's 50 different food cards, and then there's clues, 49 clues that you're supposed to link to all of the different clue cards except for one, and then that one is the answer and you try to get that right. There's levels 1 through 5 in the game, and once you play it, that's it. So we played through all of those in one night. It was pretty quick, but it was fun. The first few levels were pretty easy for us because we had a lot of players, but then it got more challenging at the end. And I had 2 plays of Timeline Twist, which is a cooperative timeline game. Timeline is a game where you have different cards that have different dates, and you don't know what the date is, so you're playing it down and then trying to guess what date it is. But in the cooperative version, it's kind of a mix between Timeline and the card game called The Game. So instead of choosing where you want to play your card, you're choosing a card to play, and then when you play it, it goes where it belongs. But it can't go between cards. You want to do it either to the left or the right, but close to the card that's already been in the timeline. Because if it goes in between the gap, only one card can fit in between, and then all of the rest of your cards that are between that gap are unplayable. So you want to play the cards with the closest events in a row, kind of. Our group is pretty bad at timeline, and so we didn't do very well with Timeline Twist. And then I played 2 escape room type puzzle games from Post Curious, which I talked about on the podcast. One was the Emerald Flame, which I had started a long time ago in January, and then I finished it. So I finished chapters 2 and 3 in October. And then I played the Morrison Game Factory as well, which was a review copy, a traveling review copy, and it's on Kickstarter. I think it's still on Kickstarter, but I talked about that on the podcast. I really enjoyed it. I also got Dixit Disney Edition. So this is Dixit, where you have cards with serial art, and then on your turn you're saying a phrase that relates to your card, and everyone puts a card in, and then people vote on what they think your card was. The Disney version has a bunch of Disney card art and little Disney characters that have really nice components and stuff. I wish the art had more surreal art in it. Each card was from one movie, so it would have been nice to have the cards have mixtures of movies in each card, I think. I don't know. Or maybe we're just really bad at coming up with clues. I streamed Escape of the Dead 2, which is a free print and play game about you're rolling dice to do different actions and you're killing zombies and trying to get to the hospital. So it was a quick game. There was Escape of the Dead minigame, which I had played a couple of years ago, and then this one I streamed this year for Halloween. It was fun. I played Unlock Short Adventures, The Flight of the Angel, which is an escape room type game. If you know Unlock, it's an escape room type game with cards and an app. These are shorter versions, so it's I think supposed to be 40 minutes instead of an hour for the time limit. I think we did it in 20 minutes or something. But it still had some neat puzzles, and I liked how this one worked, had some cool things that were recurring in there. I try not to give spoilers. And then I got a review copy of Keep It 100, which is another timeline-like game. This is cooperative or competitive timeline game where you're trying to put cards in order, but then instead of being history years, it's percentages of people who answered a question in a certain way. So they polled about 100 people, and then it's how many people answered this way. So yeah, we played the cooperative version. We're still not good at timeline and timeline type things, even with this type, so we didn't do very well in this game either. Alright, on to children's games. So children's games, there are a lot that I've played before, so I'll just mention those briefly. The My First Adventure, Choose Your Own Adventure RPG series, we read for bedtime stories, all 3, the Discovering Atlantis, Finding the Dragon, and Journey to Ochreland. Building Site, a memory game where you're building a little house, and Tidy Up, a sorting game where you're sorting things into a bookshelf. One Game of Strike, which is a dexterity dice rolling game, which we've talked about a lot. This is a game that I often play with adults, not necessarily a children's game, but I played it with my kids, so I'm including it here. And then games that are new to my kids. Some of these are not new to me, but are new to playing with my kids. So I played 2 plays of Mysterium Kids, Captain Echo's Treasure. I actually played 1 play with my kids and then 1 play with just adults. So in this game, there's 5 cards on the table that show different pictures of sounds, like a bee buzzing or like a piano. And then one person is, I guess, the ghost or Captain Echo or something. And they have this little drum thing that they're using to make noises to try to match one of the sound cards. And everyone else has their eyes closed and is trying to guess it. We're all working together, so you want to guess it. So it's pretty hard for kids. When I was playing with my kids, it's actually for ages 6+ and my kids are 4, so they're not at the age yet. But I ended up not having them close their eyes, and then it worked a little bit better. But like when they were trying to make this noise, they don't like understand all of the different noises and the nuances that it can be to try to make a specific noise. So they weren't very great at that part. They could kind of guess it sometimes when I was making noise. And then when I played with adults, we got a perfect game, but there were some times when it was kind of difficult because we played on the more difficult mode where you had to like guess 2 noises sometimes. But there were like some variances like, oh, they swished it here and then did a scraping sound and then like bumped it, which would be this instead of this one. That was kind of interesting. We played one play of Storytime Backgammon, which I got as a review copy. It's a new game by the creators of Storytime Chess, which I talked about before, but it's learning backgammon through stories. So we read through the first story, which is basically telling you how to read pips on a die and like learning how to roll and move, which for my kids, like they don't really do much roll and move. So they were like practicing rolling the dice and then counting how many pips there were and like, okay, this is number 5. Okay. And then they count the 5 spaces on the board. So that's cool. And I'm excited to play more of that. I played one play of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas Merry Madness, which was a review copy a while ago that I talked about on the podcast already. But then I played with my kid with the actual rules because he likes playing with the pieces so much because he loves Nightmare Before Christmas. But this time we played by the rules kind of. It's a speed game, so like a real-time speed game, so we didn't play real-time. We just like, you roll the dice and you're supposed to like move pieces from your board to someone else's board based on what you roll. So then it tells you right or left in which piece and how many of them. So we were just having him roll the dice and then like, okay, how many do you do? And do it. And then we're kind of doing it in turns instead of like real time as fast as you can. It's pretty good for teaching him his right and left, which he's having problems with. I played one play of Dragon's Breath and one play of Dragon's Breath The Hatching, which are both very similar games. So the Dragon's Breath The Hatching is a standalone expansion to Dragon's Breath, so I'll talk about both of them. But they both involve like this ring with gems inside, a stack of rings, and you pick up a stack and the gems fall out, and then you're trying to like collect the gems. You pick which color you think is going to fall out and try to collect the gems. My kids weren't very good at like anticipating which color they wanted to go for, but they liked pulling the stack and having the gems fall out. One play of Race to the Treasure, which was a hand-me-down game, so I didn't know about it that much, but I really enjoyed this one. This is a cooperative kids game where you're building a track, kind of like Karuba. You're placing tiles down that make a route, and you're trying to get like 3 keys before you get to the exit, and you're trying to do this before 4 ogre or so many ogre tiles come out. So you draw a card, and if the card's an ogre, then it increases the path of the ogre, but otherwise you can place it where you want on the path. So I thought that was really neat. My kid was able to like make paths. He wasn't good at making the optimal path, but like with playing more, that was a fun game, and I think it was great for kids. Then I played one play of Monza with my other kid who likes cars, and we actually were able to play by the rules. It's a racing game where you're rolling dice of different colors to move your car onto that colored space, and you have to like roll that color to move forward to that color. You can get stuck a lot, so I actually don't like it that much, but he loves cars, so like the theme carries it for him. But for me, like there are lots of turns where you kind of just get stuck and you can't move forward at all because you didn't roll the color that you need to move forward. But he didn't seem to mind that. So that was all the games I played in October. Lots of new kids games, and I'm excited that my kids are finally like old enough to be wanting to play games by the rules with each other like multiple times in a row sometimes. So hopefully I'll be playing more with them. And outside of children's games, my favorite game of the month, I think, was the Morrison Game Factory. I really like puzzle games and like escape room type games, so this was one of those, but the story was really good, and I think the puzzles were very thematic. So yeah, it was a good immersive puzzle game. And that was a review copy, as I mentioned before. But yeah, I liked it a lot. The story, the theme. It's themed around a board game, like board game components, board game factory, which is neat because I know about board games and I like puzzles, so it was great. Let me know in the comments what your favorite plays of October were, and if you had any great new to you games that you played. If you like the video, make sure you like it like by clicking on the like button instead of just, liking it in your head and saying, yeah, I liked it. And if you really liked it, also you can support us on Ko-fi, and you can subscribe and watch more of our videos if you want. So thanks for watching Board Game Blitz. Bye!